Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. Today's Doctor Who review is none other than the missing Doctor Who story, The Space Pirates. So, without further ado, let's get into the story. A group of space agency agents known as the Space Corp are scouting through outer space when suddenly they realize that a lot of space satellites have been hijacked, destroyed, and melted down. Turns out that all of these attacks are not random. They're all the cause of a bunch of space pirates who have been melting it down for its precious ore that has been used on spaceships, armors, and much more. The Space Corp at first ends up intercepting a man named Milo Clacy, assuming that he is involved, and of course they believe him to be the culprit behind all of it. However, little do they realize that Milo Clacy has not anything to do with it, and that Milo Clacy has been constantly reporting of these space piracies over and over again. A man named General Hermack, who is the general of the Space Corp, only suspects Milo on the basis that he believes that he has ultimatums of getting rich. Little does he realize that Milo has his own grievances, which is exactly why he is hoping to bring these space pirates to justice. The Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe accidentally land on one of the satellites during a reconnaissance mission in which the Space Corps are essentially trying to attack the space pirates, but by getting distracted by the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe's appearance in thin outer space from nowhere, they get caught up in something that doesn't quite end very good for the Space Corps. One of the leaders of the Space Corps gets attacked and then taken prisoner. The Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe end up floating aimlessly in a piece of metal for a very long time after surviving the attack from the space pirates. Milo Clacy eventually manages to pick them up and starts taking them to the planet Tar. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the planet Tar has a lot of ships belonging to the space pirates, but this only slightly starts to concern General Hermack. Turns out the space pirates have been under his nose the whole time, but General Hermack is still blinded by this idea that maybe they are taking all of the supplies to Lobos, knowing full well that Clacy has a mining operation on that planet. Milo tries to convince the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe that he has nothing to do with the pirates, but Jamie, Zoe, and the Doctor become suspicious after realizing that the attacked pilots and everything to do with the Argonite oil seems to be on the planet Tar. They believe that maybe Milo is in league with them and has brought them underneath Madeline's noses the whole time. Now, Madeline, for anyone who's most probably wondering who is this character, Madeline is the daughter of Milo's old best friend, Dom, who is assumed at the beginning of this book to be dead. The Doctor, Zoe, and Jamie get captured by the man Caven. Caven is the head of the space pirates, locks them downstairs in a cell, and pretty much leaves them for dead, along with Sorba, a surviving member of the Space Corp team. After realizing that the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe have arrived on Tar and that all of their plans could be foiled, Caven begins to become more frustrated and goes looking for the intruders. With the help of Milo, they eventually manage to get to Madeline's office, but it turns out that Madeline is in league with the space pirates and ends up getting them locked up once again. Because she wants to become richer than she already is, and the fact that she doesn't want to lose the partnership with the space pirates, Madeline decides to turn them over to Caven. Caven then locks them down in an office downstairs, only for them to discover the supposedly dead father of hers, Dom, has been living down there for a very long time. And because after when she believed he was dead, she locked the office away, she never realized that her father was under her nose the whole time. Elsewhere, General Hermack suddenly realizes that there is no mining operation taking place on Argonite on Lobos, and it turns out that none of the satellite pieces have gone there. It was a misdirection from the space pirates to hide the truth on Tar. Back on Tar, after realizing that he cannot trust Madeline, Caven decides to threaten her with death, and also decides that if it comes down to it, he is willing to blow the whole planet up with all of her and the prisoners, along with his own men, for his own success and escape from the Earth government. The Doctor and his friends eventually manage to break free and team back up with Madeline, but there's a problem. Caven has remotely activated a bomb on board of LIZ-79, which is Milo Clacy's ship. Milo Clacy and Dom accidentally end up taking off and almost end up being a floating coffin in space. Caven is prepared to destroy the pair of them, but when that plan goes up in smoke, he decides to take plan B, which is to blow the whole planet to smithereens. After escaping them and the Doctor having to go down to the basement after escaping Madeline's office, and also after saving Milo from not being able to breathe in his own spaceship, the Doctor manages to bring Milo back down to the surface, save them from the office, and then has to go downstairs and try and deactivate the bomb. Luckily for him, the Space Corp are already on Caven's and Dervish's. Dervish is the henchman of Caven, is on both of their tail, and they both pretty much get tracked down and eliminated by the Space Corp. Although they can't put them on trial and take them to justice, they do still have the factor that Madeline was involved with space piracy. Luckily for Madeline, with the backup of her father now being alive and the fact that Milo is also a very good friend of hers, they both are willing to testify on her behalf to reduce her sentence in prison. General Hermack tries to call the Doctor and Milo back in for questioning on the events that have just taken place, and the Doctor and Milo have the same idea to pretty much skedaddle away from the situation and hope for the best. Zoe and Jamie joke about the fact that they are like a bunch of naughty kids in school, and Hermack and General Warren start trying to scream at them down the radio, but get nothing back but apparently what he describes to be the sound of an old raspberry, which is apparently Warren's way of describing the TARDIS taking off. So, the Space Pirates overall, what did I think of it? It's a very dramatic story. It's a story that I've heard a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about, and it's a story I've wanted to read for a very long time. Personally, on my own belief, I feel like the first half of the story is definitely a bit slow, but I feel like as the tensions grow and you really start to get to learn about the characters, their backgrounds, and their wants and their needs, the story progresses. It's not necessarily the worst story out there. I feel like it has some very strong points and some very strong communication between the past, the present, and the future of each of the characters, and it also has a very strong tie to family bonds. The idea that someone such as Madeline can be manipulated just simply by the fact of believing that her father is dead is such a human thing to happen that I believe it's what makes this story such a strength. Zoe and Jamie's inability to pretty much put up with the Doctor trying to escape all the time, especially when he uses a tuning fork in the story, I think is hilarious because it shows the difference between the Doctor and his friends. I also like that the Doctor gets very frustrated when Jamie takes the tuning fork and chucks it, but he also compliments Jamie on the irony that he helps them escape the cell. General Hermack, Warren, and a lot of the ship crew, I can't lie, are a very controversial kind of characters in this book, mainly on the basis that you kind of like but don't like them. You can see where Milo Clacy and a lot of the old boys are coming from in this story, where they've explored space for so long, and yet they've got these up and coming youth who believe they know everything about space. And Milo literally just chucks a bunch of copper at Warren in one point of the story, which messes up his whole guidance system. Caven comes across as a very aggressive character. He kind of gives me a reminder of people such as hijackers in the Mummy on the Orient Express. Kind of stories like that where you have like a guy behind the mask. He definitely has an intention, and the thing I find brilliant as well about Caven's character compared to Darvish is just a coward. He's just doing what he's told, whereas Caven is like willing to literally take himself to the death to get what he wants. So let's get to the scoring cards of the story, shall we? Said strong story towards the end, a little bit slow at the start, but as you slowly get through it, you start to really embrace where the story's going and at least the effort that it was attempting to get to. Overall, it's a very strong story for me, and personally, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next Doctor Who review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, and have an incredible night.